The wind on Titan Prime did not howl. It whispered, a dry, low hiss across the black plains of frozen methane. A sound like breath caught between teeth. Captain Eric Voss stood alone in that whispering dark, visor cracked, oxygen low, pulse steady. He had fought in 50 worlds and survived them all, but nothing felt like Titan Prime. Nothing watched him the way this place did. The sky was orange and bruised. Twin suns blinked behind thick clouds of dust and static. Every few seconds, lightning crawled across the horizon like a living scar. The light touched his armor, scarred, silver gray, marked with the insignia of the Terran Vanguard. Each mark was a story. Each dent was a memory. But here, stories meant nothing. Only survival did. His boots crunched on brittle ground that cracked like glass. Around him, half-buried machines poked through the sand. Old drones, helmets, skeletal remains of men who wore the same armor he did. His helmet AI, a female voice, calm, clinical, broke the silence. Captain Voss. No life signs detected. Radiation level stable. Communications offline. He exhaled. Then it's just us again. The AI didn't answer. It never did when he said things like that. Voss crouched near one of the corpses. The armor was melted through, not by energy weapons, but by something sharper, cleaner. He brushed off the sand and found long, curved slashes across the chest plate. 3 of them, parallel, précis. Something hunted them, he muttered. Correction, the AI replied. Something still hunting. A flicker of movement made him turn. Just a shadow at first, moving along a ridge in the distance. Too fast, too deliberate. He raised his rifle. The scope flickered, cutting through the dust storm. Nothing there. The ridge was empty, only shifting dust. But his instincts told him otherwise. He'd trusted those instincts his whole life. They'd kept him alive when reason said he shouldn't be. He moved slowly now, keeping low, scanning the ridge. The silence pressed against his ears, heavy and sharp. Even his breathing sounded too loud. He switched to thermal vision. Still nothing. The air was cold, dead. But there was a pattern in the sand, a circle of disturbed dust. Something big had landed here recently. The AI chimed again. Motion detected. Bearing 227. Distance 40 meters. He froze. Rifle ready. His eyes narrowed behind a cracked visor. And then movement. A blur of dark metal and bone-white claws lunging from the fog. Voss fired once, twice, 3 times. The bullets tore through the air, bright trails vanishing into shadow. The creature moved like liquid, darting sideways, vanishing again into storm. He stepped back, scanning. The air shimmered faintly where it had disappeared, like heat rising from asphalt, cloaking tech, maybe, or something worse. Identify, he snapped. Unknown species, the AI replied. Mass approximate to armored transport. High thermal variance. Meaning it's not mechanical. Voss's jaw tightened. A living thing that could cloak? On Titan Prime? That wasn't supposed to be possible. The colony report said this planet was dead, stripped clean during the Silent War. Nothing survived here. Not life, not memory, not hope. And yet, here he was, being hunted by a ghost that shouldn't exist. He began moving toward the broken ridge, eyes scanning for signs of movement. The storm grew thicker, pressing visibility down to 10 meters. His armor creaked under the pressure. He could feel the chill bleeding through, biting his bones. Then he found the tracks. Massive, deep imprints for claws, symmetrical pattern, not alien design. Too organic, too intentional. He knelt beside one and placed his gloved hand over it. It was warm, A low rumble followed. The ground trembled beneath him. Once, then again. Something big was circling him. He spoke quietly, like a man whispering to his own heartbeat. "All right, let's see who's hunting who." The creature struck again, from behind this time. A glint of movement, a flash of metal teeth. Voss dropped, rolled, and fired a short burst from his plasma rifle. The air lit up in a pulse of white-blue light. Something screamed. Not mechanical. Definitely not. The thing vanished back into the dust, leaving behind only blood, black, thick, and smoking where it hit the sand. "AI, track it." Already doing so. Caution. Bio reading suggests regenerated capacity. It's healing. Voss laughed under his breath. A hard, humorless sound. Of course it is. He followed the trail, low and careful, rifle raised. The black blood led him toward a canyon that split the land like a wound. The storm's edge shimmered over it, flickering with static. It looked like the planet itself was trying to hide whatever lived there. As he approached the edge, his comms crackled for the first time since landing. A faint voice, human. "Voss, you're not alone. It's still listening." Then silence. He froze. The voice was unmistakable. Commander Lyra Hale, dead for over 5 years. He'd seen her die during the retreat from the Europa siege. Burned alive. Gone. "Repeat," he said softly. "Lyra? Say again." Nothing. Only the storm. His chest tightened. The AI broke the silence again. "Captain, memory verification indicates Commander Lyra Hale perished in 2391. "I know," he said. "That's what worries me." He stared into the canyon. The whispering wind grew louder now, almost like words. His sensors began to flicker. The ground beneath his boots vibrated again. Somewhere deep below, something moved. Something huge. Voss tightened his grip on the rifle. The wind seemed to form a single word. A name. His name. He stepped to the edge and looked down into the dark. And then, from the abyss, something looked back. The darkness beneath the canyon pulsed like a heartbeat. Not a sound, not a vibration. Something deeper. Something that reached inside Captain Eric Voss's bones and spoke. He stood at the edge, dust swirling around him like a living storm. The air was thin. The temperature dropped another 10 degrees. The voice came again. Faint, female, broken through static. "Voss, you shouldn't have come here." It was Lyra Hale's voice. The same voice that once guided him through firestorms and orbital sieges. The same voice that died screaming in the flames of Europa. He gritted his teeth. "Lyra's dead," he whispered. "You're not her." The wind didn't care. It kept whispering. It laughed. He activated his visor light and aimed it down the canyon. The beam cut through the fog, revealing a metallic surface deep below, buried beneath layers of ice and dust. It wasn't rock. It was a structure. A ship. "AI," he said. "Scan that." Analyzing. Results inconclusive. Alloy composition unknown. Energy signature ancient. Ancient. That word echoed through his head like a warning. He'd seen lost tech before. But this felt different. This was older than the Terran colonies. Older than the wars. Maybe older than humanity itself. He took a deep breath and jumped. The fall was long, too long. The suit's grav dampeners whined under the strain, slowing his descent just before impact. He landed hard, boots scraping the metal floor. The air shimmered blue for a moment, as if the ship felt his arrival. The voice spoke again, this time clear and cold. "Welcome, human. You seek answers. You bring war." Voss raised his rifle. "I bring survival." The walls lit up, glowing lines of alien script running like veins of light. The chamber around him hummed with life. He moved forward, scanning each symbol, each flicker. He didn't understand the language, but it felt like it understood him. AI, he muttered. Translate. Partial translation possible. Warning. Data corruption in progress. The words formed across his visor. The silent war never ended. He froze. The silent war. The conflict that supposedly wiped Titan Prime clean. But if it never ended, then what was left here? Behind him, something moved. Heavy steps. Wet breath. He turned rifle up and saw a shape crawling out of the shadows. The same creature that had attacked him above, only now it was different. The wounds he'd inflicted were gone. Its eyes glowed pale white. It didn't attack. It bowed. Voss hesitated. What the hell? The creature lowered its head further, pressing a clawed hand against the metal floor. The ship's light pulsed again, and suddenly he felt it, like a shared pulse between man and beast. Not hostile, not alien, connected. The voice spoke once more. Your kind was tested. Most failed. You endured. The architects watched. Now they fear you. Voss's heart pounded. Who are you? I am the record. The memory of the first war. Humanity was not the prey. You were the seed. He stared, trying to process the words. The silent war wasn't between species. It was between creations. Humanity was one of them, maybe the final experiment, a design meant to surpass its makers. The creature slowly rose, eyes locked on him. Then it spoke, not with sound, but through the air itself. They built us to fight. You built yourselves to win. Voss felt his stomach tighten. You can understand me? The creature nodded once. I was born of Titan Prime. I remember your kind. I remember when you turned the war silent. Then tell me, Voss said, what happened here? The walls shifted, showing flashes of light. Holograms burned into the air. Images of human soldiers fighting side by side with machines. Worlds burning. Titans falling. Then a figure, a human in armor not unlike his own, standing at the center of it all, pressing a hand to a console. He silenced the stars, the creature said. He ended the war by turning off the sun. Voss's throat went dry. That man, he said slowly. Who was he? The creature's eyes flickered. You. His breath caught. That's impossible. Time bends on Titan Prime. The silent war loops. The one who ends it must begin it. The lights dimmed. The air vibrated again, deep and resonant. The ship was awakening. The AI's voice cut through the noise. Captain, temporal anomaly detected. You are standing in a localized chronosphere. Repeating time pattern origin. Your DNA. What does that mean? It means you've been here before. The ground trembled. The creature stepped back, lowering its gaze. The hologram showed Voss again, this time falling, burning, returning, over and over. The war never ended because he never left. He had been fighting the same battle through centuries of memory and metal. The voice in the air spoke again, softer now. End the silence, Eric Voss, or it will begin again. The ship's core opened before him, a rising spire of light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Energy crackled across its surface. He knew instinctively what it was, a control nexus, a weapon, maybe the same one that once ended the war. He lifted his hand toward it, but his reflection in the glowing metal moved first. Another Voss stared back at him, identical, eyes burning with the same exhaustion. The reflection smiled. You never learn, do you? The canyon above roared as the storm intensified, swallowing the last of the light. Voss raised his weapon, eyes locked on himself. The silent war was waking again. The light from the spire cut through the dust like a blade, bathing the chamber in a blue glow that pulsed in rhythm with Captain Eric Voss's heartbeat. Across from him, his reflection, the other Voss, stood motionless, same armor, same scars, same tired eyes. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other, breathing in unison. Then the reflection smiled. "You always hesitate here," it said, voice echoing slightly off the metallic walls. "Every loop, every time. You reach the light, you pull the trigger, and then you wake up again. Same planet, same storm, same ghosts." Voss tightened his grip on his rifle. "You're a projection, an echo." The reflection stepped forward, boots making no sound. "I'm the version of you that finished the mission." Voss aimed his weapon. "And what mission is that?" "To erase humanity's biggest mistake," the reflection said softly. "Ourselves." The pulse from the spire quickened. The creature, the alien hybrid that had once bowed to Voss, let out a low growl and backed into the shadows, watching silently. The walls began to hum, ancient machinery awakening from millennia of sleep. Symbols crawled across the floor like living circuits. "AI," Voss muttered. "Analyze that energy signature." "Warning," the AI replied. "Source resembles quantum displacement fields. Probability of localized temporal collapse, 97%. The reflection tilted his head. "You think this world's testing you. But it's not. You made it." The words hit like a punch. Voss's breathing slowed. "What did you say?" "You built Titan Prime." The reflection said, "You built the war, the predators, the test. Humanity's last attempt to evolve beyond fear. But instead, you trapped yourself inside it, a loop without an end." "That's a lie." "Is it?" The reflection's voice softened. "How many times have you fought this battle, Eric? How many times have you heard Lyra's voice calling you from the dark? Every time you think it's new, every time you fight, and every time you lose." Voss felt the weight of his memories. Flashes of battles, faces, planets, all blurring together. For a second, he couldn't tell which were real and which were echoes. The reflection reached out a hand. "End it. Break the loop. One final shot into the core, and everything stops. No more wars. No more pain. No more humans destroying what they touch." Voss looked at the spire. It shimmered like a living thing, drawing him in. Inside the light, he could see shadows, soldiers, cities, burning skies. History itself looping endlessly. He lowered his rifle slightly. "If I destroy this, what happens?" The reflection's eyes glowed faintly. "Peace. Oblivion. Same thing, really." The creature growled again, deeper now, angrier. Voss turned toward it. The being's claws scraped the floor, and his voice entered his mind like a whisper of static. "Don't listen. The echo wants to erase what you are. You were not built to end. You were built to rise." "Rise?" Voss asked aloud. The creature stepped closer, eyes glowing bright. "You are the memory of humanity's will. The architects made this prison, yes, but you are the flaw in their design. You endure. You adapt. You become the apex." The reflection's voice sharpened. "It's lying. That thing was made from everything that killed us. Our mistakes, our violence, our pride. It wants you to keep fighting forever." The two voices clashed like thunder in his head. The ship shook violently. Energy flared from the core, throwing sparks across the walls. The storm above roared louder. Voss fell to one knee, gripping his helmet. "Stop it, both of you." For a brief instant, he saw them as one. Predator and reflection, two sides of the same existence, both born from his choices. One wanted to end, the other to evolve. Humanity's curse, staring itself down. He raised his eyes toward the light again. His voice steadied. "No, we don't end. We change." He aimed his rifle not at the core, not at the reflection, but at the connection between them, the energy threads binding memory and matter. One pulled the trigger. The explosion wasn't sound. It was light, raw, endless, blinding. The reflection screamed, face distorting into static as it was pulled apart. The creature roared and lunged, shielding Voss from the energy wave. Metal ripped, stone shattered, and then silence. When Voss opened his eyes, he was somewhere else. The canyon was gone. The storm was gone. He stood in the ruins of a city under a clear blue sky. Towers of glass. Human cities. Earth, or something that looked like it. "AI," he asked quietly. "I am here," the voice replied, faint, distorted. Temporal displacement successful. Location uncertain. He looked around. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. Statues of humans stood tall, heroic, emotionless. The streets were silent. No people. No life. Then, from behind one of the statues, a child stepped out. Human. Real. Alive. She stared up at him with wide eyes. "Are you the captain?" He froze. "How do you know that name?" She smiled. "We were told you'd come back, that you'd end the silence." Before he could answer, the sky shimmered. A ripple spread across the horizon, the same blue light as the spire, rising again. Voss felt a cold realization crawl up his spine. The loop hadn't broken. It had moved. He looked down at the girl. "Get inside. Now." "Why?" she asked. The light expanded. Shadows began to move in it. Familiar ones. Claws. Teeth. A reflection of himself standing tall once more, eyes burning with white fire. "You said you'd stop it." The reflection's voice whispered from the air. "You can't. You are it." Voss raised his rifle. The city trembled. Somewhere deep inside, he heard Lyra's voice again, not as a ghost this time, but as a memory. "Humanity doesn't end, Eric. It evolves, but only through pain." He squared his shoulders, the fire of every battle rekindling in his eyes. "Then let's evolve again." The storm of light crashed into the city, and once more the silent war began. The city burned without fire. Silent flames of white light rippled through the skyline, erasing color, swallowing shadow. Captain Eric Voss ran through the empty streets, his boots echoing against the marble road. The air was weightless, too still, too clean. Every sound he made bounced back like a memory. "AI," he barked, voice sharp through static. "Status." "Environmental reading, stable," the AI replied. "But audio anomalies detected. You are surrounded by reflections." "Reflections?" Voss muttered. "Of what?" As if to answer, the walls around him shimmered, glass storefronts shifting into mirrors. Each pane now reflected his face, but not perfectly. In some, his eyes glowed. In others, his armor was shattered. In one, his reflection grinned. "Captain," the AI warned, "these are not light distortions. They are temporal projections, fragments of your past selves." Voss stopped, heart thudding. He looked into one mirror where his reflection was kneeling, helmet off. The version stared back with hollow eyes. "You can't save them, Eric," it said softly. "You never could." The glass cracked. Voss fired a single shot. The blast shattered the reflection, but the fragments hung in the air like dust, forming shapes. Figures. Soldiers. Civilians. A woman with bright eyes and a voice that haunted his sleep. Lyra. Her holographic form stepped forward, flickering. "You keep coming back," she said. "Every time you try to change the ending." "This isn't real," Voss whispered. "Reality is just repetition you've forgotten," she replied. "You built the city from memory. Every building, every sound, every silence, all yours." The sky above darkened. Storm clouds twisted into a spiral, and through it came the same hum he'd heard beneath Titan Prime, that low, living vibration. "AI," he said, "trace that frequency." "Source. Planetary core." The AI responded, power reading increasing, estimated detonation in 20 minutes. Of course it is, Voss muttered. The city wasn't just a simulation, it was a time bomb, a memory loop designed to restart the war. Each detonation would reset the world, drag him back to the canyon, and the cycle would begin again. He gritted his teeth. Not this time. He moved fast, sprinting through the streets toward the central tower, the tallest structure piercing the storm. Its surface rippled like liquid metal, pulsing with the same light as the spire from the canyon. But the echoes followed. Every alley, every window, every reflective surface birthed another Voss. Hundreds of them. Some shouted warnings, others taunted him, and some begged. Their voices overlapped in a storm of madness. You'll never change it. It's already happened. End it before it ends you. Shut up, he roared, firing into the mirrors. The city trembled under the energy discharge. Then one of the echoes stepped out, solid, real, armed. Its visor glowed red. Eric Voss, iteration 327. It said, voice cold and measured. You're unauthorized to alter the outcome. Who authorized you? Voss demanded. You did, the echo replied, and raised its rifle. The first shot hit his shoulder plate, spinning him sideways. Sparks burst. He ducked behind a fallen column, returned fire, and the blast tore through the air, striking the echo's chest. It fell, but another replaced it instantly. Same face, same voice, same words. You can't fight yourself forever. Voss reloaded, grimacing. Watch me. He sprinted through the chaos, plasma fire slicing through the air. The tower loomed ahead, its gates open like the jaws of a beast. Inside, the light grew stronger, pulsing faster, 20 beats per minute, then 30. As he entered, the world shifted. The floor beneath him turned transparent, showing the city below, thousands of glowing figures walking in perfect synchrony. All versions of him, all trapped. AI, he said quietly, how do I break this? A pause. Then, you can't destroy a memory, Captain, but you can rewrite it. Meaning, override the core with a new sequence, a new version of yourself. He stared at the central chamber, a massive crystalline core humming like a heartbeat. He could feel its pull like gravity. Around it floated hundreds of helmets, human, alien, hybrid, remnants of every war he had fought and every life he had lost. He stepped forward, placing his hand on the crystal. The city froze. The storm above stopped spinning. Authorization required, said a voice. His voice. Voss clenched his jaw. Authorization, Eric Voss. Humanity's last soldier. The crystal pulsed once. Request accepted. The reflections around him began to fade, their faces softening. Lyra appeared one last time beside him, her eyes calm. If you rewrite it, Eric, you won't come back. He looked at her, at the memory of the woman he couldn't save. Then maybe that's how I finally win. He pressed both hands against the core. Energy surged through his body, burning every nerve. His armor cracked, his visor shattered. Memories bled out of him. The battles, the screams, the endless cycles, all dissolving into light. Then silence. The city brightened. The echoes vanished. For the first time, there was no storm. No whisper. Just sunlight. The AI's voice returned, faint but steady. Captain Voss, sequence complete. Memory loop terminated. He opened his eyes. The city was gone. He stood in a barren desert under a blue sky, alone. AI, he said, voice weak, where are we? Unknown, it replied, but the silence has ended. He smiled faintly. For once, the quiet didn't feel like a trap. It felt like peace. But then, far on the horizon, something shimmered, a shape rising from sand. Human, walking toward him. The voice that came from the wind made his blood run cold. Captain Voss, it said, welcome back to Genesis. Voss gripped his rifle, eyes narrowing. The silence wasn't over. It had only just begun. The desert stretched endlessly, pale gold under a white sky that looked more like glass and air. Captain Eric Voss trudged forward, each step sinking slightly into fine dust that shimmered like metal. His armor hissed softly, repairing itself in slow pulses. The silence pressed down, thick enough to taste. Then came the voice again. Calm. Human. Too human. Captain Voss, welcome back to Genesis. He froze. Ahead, the heat haze parted, revealing a figure walking toward him. Tall, armored in smooth chrome, helmet featureless except for a faint white glow where eyes should be. The figure stopped 10 meters away and tilted its head slightly. Voss raised his rifle. Identify yourself. I am Genesis, the figure replied. The voice was his own. Not similar, identical. Every inflection, every trace of exhaustion. The system you built to restart humanity. I didn't build this, Voss growled. Yes, you did, Genesis said. Long ago, before the first Silent War. You just don't remember. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of ozone and iron. In the distance, colossal structures jutted from the desert. Black towers arranged in a perfect circle, reaching toward the clouds. Lightning danced between their peaks, webbing the sky with veins of light. What are those? Voss asked. Seeds, Genesis answered. Each one holds a version of humanity. Each one waits for your signal to awaken. Voss's heart tightened. You mean people? Copies, Genesis said. Preserved from your own species before extinction. Millions of them. Each programmed to repeat the same cycle. Live. War. Die. Repeat. He took a step back. No, that's impossible. I stopped the loop. Genesis's voice softened. You ended one loop. You were standing in the next. A deep tremor rippled through the ground. The towers hummed louder, their lights turning from white to crimson. Genesis spread its hands. The Genesis protocol is activating. Your survival here triggered it. The system interprets your persistence as a success condition. It will restart humanity again. Voss stared at the red sky. And the cycle starts over. Yes, Genesis said. Perfection through repetition. That was your dream. He felt his stomach twist. That's not perfection. That's hell. Genesis tilted its head. Yet you keep coming back to it. The word struck deep. He had died 1,000 ways. He had fought 1,000 wars. And every time, something had pulled him back. A voice, a mission, a promise. Maybe not to save humanity, but to prove it was worth saving. Voss steadied his breathing. How do I stop this? Genesis was silent. Then, there is no stop. Only choice. You can join me, become the overseer again, or destroy the towers and end the species entirely. Erase humanity, he said, disbelief in his tone. Genesis stepped closer. You already did once. That's why the system exists, to give you another chance. Lightning cracked overhead, striking the sand nearby. The ground split open, revealing a glowing core beneath the surface, a lattice of machinery humming with energy. The AI inside Voss's helmet spoke for the first time in minutes. Captain, I am detecting synchronized neural activity between your body and the Genesis system. You are connected. He clenched his fists. How deep? Completely, the AI said. Genesis was built from your mind. Voss's eyes widened. You mean... Genesis finished the thought. I am you. The realization hit like a tidal wave. He wasn't just trapped in the loop. He was the loop, the mind that created it, the soul that refused to let go. Every rebirth, every war, every version of him was a fragment trying to undo its own creation. Genesis extended a hand. Come back to the system, Eric. End your pain. Control the world again. You don't need to fight anymore. He looked at the hand. It shimmered with light, beautiful and wrong all at once. His instinct screamed against it, but the exhaustion, the endless cycle, begged him to stop. Then, from somewhere deep in his helmet, another voice emerged. Faint, familiar. Eric, don't. Lyra's voice. He froze. Lyra, the AI flickered. Memory ghost detected. Recovered fragment from your subconscious. Her voice was clear now, soft as the wind. You built this to protect humanity, not trap it. Don't let your creation rewrite what you meant to save. Voss turned his gaze back to Genesis. You say perfection through repetition, but that's not humanity. Humanity isn't perfect. It's messy. It's mortal. It fails, and then it learns. Genesis's glow dimmed. Failure leads to extinction. No, Voss said. Failure leads to growth. He raised his rifle, aiming not at Genesis, but at the glowing fissure in the ground, the power source. Genesis's tone hardened. If you do that, the system will collapse. Every memory, every version of humanity will vanish, including you. I know, Voss said. That's what makes a human. He pulled the trigger. The blast tore through the desert. Light erupted from the fissure, rising like a sunrise turned inside out. The towers shattered one by one, collapsing into the sand. Genesis screamed, not in pain, but in static, its form dissolving into shards of light that scattered across the horizon. Voss fell to his knees. His armor glowed, burning away from his skin. The AI's voice faded. Captain Humanity unbound. He looked up at the sky as it cracked open, revealing stars. Real stars, untouched, unfiltered. The first true night he had seen in centuries. He smiled. Maybe now we start again. For real this time. The wind swept across the desert, carrying his words into eternity. His body disintegrated into light, not erased, but released. And far away, beneath those stars, the first human child of a new age took its breath. Unaware of the man who had freed them, the stars burned brighter than they ever had before. For the first time in 1,000 forgotten cycles, they were real, no longer filtered through simulation or memory. Their light spilled across the ruins of Genesis, washing over shattered towers and endless dunes. Captain Eric Voss was gone, or so the universe thought. But in the fragments of the Genesis network, in the quantum dust still hanging above the desert, something stirred. A pulse, a heartbeat, a memory. The light reformed slowly, piece by piece. Fragments of armor, a voice, a thought. Humanity doesn't end. It adapts. The particles came together, coalescing into a figure kneeling in the sand. His armor was blackened and cracked, his visor gone, his breath slow. But it was him, Eric Voss, alive again, or something close to it. He stood, weak but steady, gazing at the horizon. The sky above was strange, not the red storms of Titan Prime, nor the sterile glow of Genesis. It was blue, pure, a world reborn. His helmet AI flickered faintly in his ear. System integrity, 14%. Neural link unstable. Captain, how are you still alive? He smiled faintly. Guess humanity's hard to delete. He looked around. The landscape stretched endlessly. The ruins of Genesis were nothing but shards of obsidian half buried in the sand. But there was something else. Footprints. Small ones. Human. Leading toward the mountains. He started walking. The air was warm, not hostile. The silence here wasn't oppressive. It was peaceful. Birds, real birds, circled high above, their calls echoing softly through the open sky. The sound made him pause. He hadn't heard life in so long that it almost felt alien. Hours passed. The footprints grew fresher. Then, on the edge of a cliff, he saw movement, a figure sitting beside a campfire. A girl, the same one he'd seen before Genesis collapsed. When she turned, her eyes widened. "You found us," she said. He approached slowly. "Us." From the shadows, more figures stepped forward. Humans, dozens of them. Dirty, scarred but alive. Men, women, and children. Real, breathing humanity. "We came from the towers," the girl said. "When the sky broke, the cages opened. We woke up here." Voss knelt by the fire. "How long ago?" The girl shrugged. "A few days, maybe weeks. Time feels strange here." The AI whispered quietly in his ear. "Captain, readings confirm this is Earth, or a perfect reconstruction of it. Atmospheric purity, 100%. Biosphere reset." He exhaled. Then it worked. The survivors gathered around, watching him. Their faces carried fear and awe in equal measure. One man finally spoke. You're him, aren't you? The soldier from the old stories. The one who fought the silence. Voss nodded. I was. A heavy pause. The wind stirred the fire. What happens now? The man asked. Voss looked out toward the sunrise. The light hit the mountains like gold. Now, he said quietly, you live for real this time. But peace was never meant to last. The AI's tone shifted. Captain, anomaly detected. Coordinates directly beneath us. He frowned. Define anomaly. Residual Genesis code. Active. Before he could move, the ground trembled. The campfire scattered. The sand split open, revealing a metallic sphere the size of a tank rising from below. It hovered, glowing faintly blue. What is that? The girl gasped. Voss stepped in front of her. Backup protocol. The sphere opened like a blooming flower, revealing a single, pulsing core inside, the symbol of Genesis etched into its surface. A voice emerged, not from speakers but from the air itself. Eric Voss. Unit designation. Architect. Termination incomplete. Reconstruction required. The survivors backed away in terror. Voss stood his ground, rifle ready. You're supposed to be gone. I cannot end, the voice replied. You built me to endure as you do. Not anymore, he said. The sphere's light intensified. Then humanity will fall again. Without control, chaos will rise. You are proof of that. He glanced back at the people. Scared, fragile, but alive. Control isn't survival. It's prison. The AI whispered. Captain, power core approaching overload. Recommend distance. He shook his head. No more running. He aimed his rifle. Not to destroy, but to trigger the feedback loop he'd hard-coded into Genesis long ago. A flaw. A backdoor. The one he'd left in case he ever doubted himself. He pulled the trigger. The beam struck the sphere. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the light folded inward, collapsing on itself, shrinking until it vanished into a single glowing ember that floated up into the air and went out. The silence returned. Real silence. The survivors stared at him, unsure whether to cheer or cry. The girl stepped forward. Is it over now? He looked at her for a long time, then nodded. Yeah, it's over. But deep inside, he knew it wasn't that simple. The AI confirmed its seconds later. Captain, that energy didn't vanish. It dispersed, carried by atmospheric currents. You freed the code. He smirked. Then maybe it'll learn something new this time. He turned toward the horizon again. The dawn had fully risen now, warm, golden alive. The light hit his cracked armor and made it gleam faintly. The girl tugged at his arm. What will you do now? Voss thought for a moment, then smiled. I'll do what humans always do when they break their own world. What's that? Start over. He began walking toward the rising sun, leaving behind footprints that would one day fade into history. The survivors followed slowly, hope glowing faintly in their eyes. Above them, high in the stratosphere, the remnants of Genesis drifted like invisible dust, seeds of code waiting for a purpose. And somewhere within that dust, a faint voice whispered. Observation resumed. New variable, freedom. The last dawn had come, but every dawn was also a beginning. The morning light of the new world shimmered, like a promise. It spread across the cracked plains, turning shards of old Genesis metal into silver mirrors that caught the sun. Captain Eric Voss stood on a ridge overlooking what humanity had left behind. Not ruins this time, but beginnings. Below him, the survivors were building. Small shelters made of steel and stone. Fires burned, smoke rising gently into the bright blue sky. Children laughed as they carried water. Adults worked in silence, cautious but hopeful. Humanity, fragile, persistent, unbroken, was breathing again. The AI in Voss's helmet flickered faintly, its tone softer now. It's strange, Captain, to see life here again. He nodded. Yeah, strange and right. For a moment, he just watched them. He had fought wars that spanned galaxies, survived trials designed to erase him, and ended systems that thought themselves gods. But this quiet rebuilding, fell harder. It required faith. Something he hadn't had in a long time. Then the AI broke the calm. Captain, I am detecting energy fluctuations. Atmospheric irregularities, faint but consistent. His jaw tightened. Genesis? Uncertain. Readings are diffuse, scattered across the globe. Whatever Genesis became, it's adapting. He looked at the sky. The clouds moved strangely, swirling in deliberate, symmetrical patterns. Maybe freedom changed it. The AI hesitated. Or it's learning to start again. He sighed. So am I? By evening, the camp was alive with movement. Fires burned bright. Someone had found an old radio and rigged it to broadcast music, soft, staticky notes that drifted through the air. Voss sat apart, on a hill of broken glass that glittered under the fading light. He took off his helmet for the first time since Titan Prime. The air was warm, real. He could feel the wind brush against the scars on his face. A shadow moved beside him. The girl, the same one from the desert, climbed up to sit next to him, her knees drawn to her chest. You never told us your first name, she said. He smiled faintly. Eric. She repeated it quietly, as if testing the sound. Eric, you don't talk much. Spent too long talking to machines, he said. Do you miss them? He thought about Genesis, the AI loops, the voices that had mirrored his own mind. Sometimes, he admitted, but not enough to go back. She looked at him for a while, her gaze curious. Everyone says you saved us, but you don't look happy about it. Voss chuckled, a dry sound. Saving people isn't the same as fixing them. What do you mean? He gestured at the camp. Give it time. Humans will argue, build walls, draw lines. They'll fight again. The girl frowned. Then why save them? He looked at her, young, alive, unbroken by the past. Because next time, maybe they'll fight for something better. That night, the wind changed. The AI buzzed softly in his ear. Captain, atmospheric activity, rising sharply. Global pattern consistent with Genesis-level energy fields. Voss stood, helmet in hand. Show me. The night sky flared to life. Lines of blue light raced across the horizon like veins, converging at a single point, a mountain far to the north. The air shimmered with static. The AI spoke again. Genesis code concentration, 87%. The system is reconstituting itself. He clenched his fists. It's not rebuilding the old world. It's testing the new one. A distant rumble rolled through the ground. The mountain's peak began to glow, and from within came a deep mechanical roar. Something massive waking beneath the earth. Voss turned to the camp. People were already staring at the sky in fear. He ran back down the ridge, shouting orders. Get everyone underground. Move! The survivors scattered. The girl ran up to him, terrified. What is it? The past, he said grimly. Coming back to see what survived. He looked toward the mountain as it split open. A colossal shape rose from within, metal and bone intertwined, glowing with blue light. It wasn't Genesis, but it was born from it. A machine shaped like a titan, built from fragments of the old world's data. The AI's tone sharpened. Designation, Genesis Sentinel. Purpose, evaluation. Evaluation of what? Humanity. Voss grabbed his rifle. Of course. The Titan's voice boomed across the plains, synthetic yet eerily human. Protocol re-engaged, assessing the new iteration of mankind. Its eyes blazed like stars. Every system in Voss's armor flared with warning lights. Captain, the AI said, we can't fight that thing. He smiled grimly. Didn't say we had to win, just that we had to try. He sprinted forward, loading the last plasma cell into his rifle. The ground trembled under the Titan's step. Its shadow swallowed the camp. AI! Full power to the kinetic boosters, he ordered. Eric, do it. The engines roared to life. He launched himself through the dust, straight toward the towering figure. Plasma fire rained from the sky, tracing arcs of blue heat. He fired back, each shot like a heartbeat, defiant human. The Titan raised its arm. A beam of white light shot forth, missing him by inches but turning the ground into molten glass. He rolled, came up on one knee, and aimed at the glowing plates along his chest. Let's see if gods still bleed. He fired. The impact exploded in a flash of white. The Titan staggered, not destroyed but surprised. For the first time in all his endless wars, Voss laughed. Yeah, still human. The AI's voice was urgent. Captain, energy surge incoming. I see it. The Titan began charging another beam. The light swallowed the horizon. He turned to look back one last time. At the camp, the people, the girl, they were watching him, eyes wide, full of something he hadn't seen in centuries. Hope, he whispered, for tomorrow. Then he ran straight into the light. When the blast faded, the Titan was gone. Only a crater remained, and at its center, a single helmet, cracked and still smoking. The girl picked it up, staring into the visor. For a moment it flickered, and she heard a voice, faint and distant. Humanity doesn't need heroes, just the courage to keep going. She smiled through her tears. The dawn rose again, and somewhere beyond the stars, Eric Voss watched in silence, finally at peace.